Jackson Arnold benched. Yikes. Yikes. That's not good. That is not good. A friend of mine who's a Texas fan legitimately texted me on Sunday saying September 8th and said that by halftime of the Tennessee game, he was going to be benched. And I thought, get out of here. That's absurd. That's completely insane. That's not going. And then it happened. 25-15. I had Tennessee winning the game by 11. Tennessee wins the game by 10. I'm not utterly shocked. My opinion of Tennessee has not changed. I think the Vols are a really good team. Oklahoma's not ready. Jackson Arnold needs to be reinserted to the starting lineup. I understand taking him out to try to win the football game. It's the SEC opener. You are at home in front of your fans, and you're putting up an absolute dud. But if you're Brent Venables, you put Jackson Arnold out there. Unless you feel for sure like you've got a better option behind him, this is not a season in which I had high hopes for Oklahoma because their schedule is brutal and their team is solid, but they're making a quarterback change. And guess what? You're either committed to Jackson Arnold or you're not. You don't want to be going back and forth. That's how guys hit the portal, and then you're doing this again next year where you're resetting at the quarterback position. They go at Auburn this week. Speaking of disappointing letdown teams, how about the Auburn Tigers? 2 home losses in the first 4 games. Yikes. Yikes. We'll talk about that more later this week. But you've got Auburn, and then you've got Texas. You have South Carolina at home. I think we agree that's not an easy game. At Ole Miss. Then they play Maine, at Missouri, Alabama, at LSU. This was never going to be, if you're being honest with yourself, as I was trying to be with Sooner fans before the year and was told that I'm just an SEC homer and blah-diddy-blah-diddy-blah. And like, okay, I think we understand now. Oklahoma is not ready for the big time in the SEC. But that doesn't mean they can't be next year. And you know what you need in this conference? You need a high-level quarterback. Jackson Arnold can still be that guy. The potential he hasn't just gone out the window. One bad game doesn't define your entire career. It's not like that in the NFL. It's not like that in college. So I understand taking him out. He should be reinserted as the starter, and you should understand that you need him to learn on the job. You need him to have the opportunity to grow. He can't grow on the sideline. He cannot grow on the sideline. He has to go through these struggles. Because this year for Oklahoma was never going to be a playoff season. It was never going to be, at least not in my view, a conference title contending season. That schedule is absolutely brutal. It will likely be easier next season. I don't know if it can be harder than this. Give me a tougher 3-game stretch than at Missouri, host Alabama, at LSU. The easiest game in there is probably at Missouri, who's currently a top 10 team. Now, they're overrated as a top 10 team, but I think for Oklahoma, I know it's just one loss. Sure, you could win out. Do you have any confidence in this Sooners team to go and win the rest of their games? You think they're beating Texas right now? You think they're beating Alabama? I don't even know if they're beating South Carolina. You're certainly not beating Ole Miss on the road. So once you stack all that up, that takes the playoff out of the equation. Arnold's got the highest ceiling. He should be your quarterback in 2025. But you need to know, you can't have this back and forth. It was okay for one game, but you cannot maintain this, okay, you're no good, we're coming out. That's not how you build a sustainable quarterback position. You got to let the guy learn. You got to give him an actual chance. I always viewed this as a wash year, a bury the tape sort of year. Oklahoma, I thought they could be, I think they can and will be a bowl team. I think their defense is pretty good. You see the way that Tennessee offense played this year? Yeah, the Tennessee offense has been pretty dominant. They went into Norman. They scored 25 points. Oklahoma's defense, pretty darn good. I'm not punting on Brent Venables. I'm not punting on the Sooners' ability to win in the SEC. But for this year, I am. Because I was never in on the Sooners' ability to win a high level in the SEC this year. You should go back to Jackson Arnold, and you should let him improve. Let him get better and be in these spots and give him the best opportunity to succeed for 2025. Now, for Oklahoma fans, it probably sounds like I'm overreacting. Spencer, it's one loss. It's one bad game. What if they do this, that, and the other thing? I'm just saying I have no faith because I never did. And now I have information to confirm what I already thought. I believe they call that confirmation bias, that Oklahoma is not going to be an upper tier team in the SEC this year. But this revolving door of quarterbacks, yeah, that needs to not continue because that doesn't do you any favors. If you're Oklahoma, you want to go out and show that you can be a good team in the SEC. Go win 7-8 games. Come back with Jackson Arnold next year. But it's pretty clear Oklahoma is not ready to win right now, but Jackson Arnold does not need to be kicked to the curb as a starting quarterback. I don't think that does anybody any favors. So, pretty disappointing performance for Oklahoma, but I'd stick with Jackson Arnold and keep things going. Let's go over to the ACC to wrap up today's show because this was just a slew of letdown performances. I don't know who's going to challenge Clemson and Miami for the ACC title. The answer is probably nobody. Maybe Louisville. They had a nice win against Georgia Tech. The ACC is just a slew of disappointment everywhere you look. Disappointment, letdown, shortcomings, whatever you want to call it. That's what the ACC is right now. North Carolina, I had this one flagged before the year. Did not pick it going into last week, but you go back and I was talking about Mac Brown, and I don't know how much longer Mac Brown's going to be there. 70 points on your home field to James Madison. Oofta. That's not good. Virginia Tech loses to Rutgers after already having lost to Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt, solid team, it appears. They went into Columbia, Missouri, and pushed the Tigers into overtime. Almost won the football game, but they lose 30-27. Virginia Tech was a team that I picked coming into the year to have a pop season, to win 10 games. I did the same thing with NC State. And NC State, now they had an injury at quarterback, although I don't know that it matters because the defense cannot stop a nosebleed. They've allowed 50 points twice this year. I mean, nothing good is happening on defense there for the Wolfpack. Virginia Tech, huge disappointment. And then it was the most Cal game. I should have seen it come. Cal plays to the level of their opponent every time, and they give Florida State their first win of the year because they couldn't make field goals and the offensive line fell apart. What do you know? The Bears go from 3-0 to 3-1. The Seminoles go from 0-3 to 1-3. And Cal just... And then you could go further up north, speaking of Bay Area teams. Syracuse, are they going to be a surprise? Nope, they lose at home to Stanford. They lose at home to Stanford. Kyle McCord not protecting the football. It's just disappointment everywhere you look. The ACC is very clear to me. Miami, Clemson, gap. Louisville, bigger gap. Everybody else, and I don't really care about them. Because as it pertains to the conference championship, I have not seen a single team. And I'm not crazy about Louisville. I think they're solid. I love their coaching staff. I think the quarterback's okay. Teams look pretty good so far. There is not a single team. It is the opposite of the Big 12. The Big 12 is wide open. Anybody could go win it. The SEC is very open. You could have Georgia. You could have Texas. You could have Bama. You could have Ole Miss. Lots of teams could win the SEC. Lots of teams could win the Big 12. Heck, several teams could win the Big 10. The ACC, this is a two-horse race. The good news for the conference is that if Clemson and Miami keep playing like this, they might both get into the playoff no matter what. Because an 11-win Power 4 team is not being left out. So if both those teams win 11 regular season games, and boy, Clemson could. I know everyone thinks Dabo Swinney's a bum. Newsflash, he is not. Clemson is pretty good. Don't know if they're great, but they're pretty darn good. They're better than everybody else in the ACC. That's just a slew of disappointment. There was a lot of disappointing football for fan bases across the country. Those seasons can be salvaged, but they can't live up to their full potential. Virginia Tech, Cal, North Carolina, NC State, oof, 59 points. That's not going to get it done. Not going to get it done. But we're done with today's show. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.